Hi, everyone. This is Case Lane. This is a follow-up to Decoding Guest Podcasting. I just wanted to show you what it looks like to navigate the podcast directories and search so you can have a visual around finding podcasts that might be right for you and perfect for doing an interview. So I'll start with Owltail. So Owltail is a podcast directory, which is a really good place to test your keywords because they give you the actual total number of search results. So when you are looking for a particular keyword, maybe it's a little bit more obscure or something like that, or you want to test if you came up with some good ideas for keywords, you can go to Owltail, put in your word, and see how many results you have. It's not a great directory for anything else, so this is just something you could do up front if you're testing your keywords. Now, Podknife is a directory that actually flags when they see podcasts that they are saying are inactive or unavailable or archived. So this is a place to check if you're looking and you can't find a podcast or something seems strange about it. Everything else looked good, but for some reason you can't really find it. You might want to go to Podknife just to see if it has an inactive flag. Now, these are Podknife's descriptions of what inactive is. Podcasters don't tend to send out a press release or anything like that. So you might actually see a great show and think, maybe you follow the podcaster on social media and you're wonder what they're going to do with their podcast. So you still might want to reach out to them. There might be information there where maybe they're just changing the genre, changing the name, something like that. And you might actually be able to get an interview for a show that's listed as inactive. So this is just another site that can help you kind of narrow down some of these shows, but it doesn't necessarily mean it really is inactive. Now, when you do the initial search, so podcasting, when you're in the directories, you want to look for the names of podcasts that might be great for you, might be a great fit, and then you want to get into the actual shows to get into that deeper level of research. So Listen Notes is a great place to start building those names of podcasts. Listen Notes separates episodes and podcasts, so make sure you're on the podcast tab. But what you'll see is show title, maybe the first line of the description, not always helpful, but it can be. You will see the last episode upload time frame, extremely important. You want to make sure the show is still active because you are searching for shows where you can interview. So it doesn't help you if the show is available to listen to, but no longer doing interviews. Then you will see links to websites and maybe the email. Now, Listen Notes, after a while, goes behind a paywall, so you'll only be able to access that information for, I don't know how many searches. I'm not quite sure, but it will stop after a while when you won't be able to access that anymore. But if you're just doing your initial search, building your list of potential podcast names, and you want to check things like the last episode upload date and get a sense of maybe it looks like a good show, you can start with Listen Notes. When you drill down to the actual show itself, then you find more information. Again, you will see the various links to the RSS feed, the website, the email. You will see things like rankings. You'll see tags, language. It's surprising there are podcasts that will put their description in English, but the show itself is not in English. If you're podcasting, if you speak English, you want to do your interviews in English, that might be a little confused. Doesn't happen very often, but it's possible. And you'll also see, though, with Listen Notes, there is a limitation because although you'll get the episodes with the last episode date, you'll only get one line from the latest episode and then no episode descriptions after that. So we talk about these different things that every directory has. Not every directory has everything you're looking for. So after a while, Listen Notes, if you're looking at it and you want to find more information about the show, you're going to probably have to look somewhere else if you're trying to confirm if the show does interviews. But Listen Notes also has recommendations. And what's helpful about that is they're recommending similar shows. And the similar shows may not necessarily have the keyword in them, but they are shows that are of the same topic. And this is so helpful for you because sometimes, you might miss a great show because it just doesn't have your keyword in it, but it could be exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Another great place to do your initial search is iVox. Now, iVox is a site that's in Spanish and English. It also has an episode tab and a podcast tab, so make sure that you are on the podcast page when you're looking for a particular list of shows that you want to start with. And right up front, they will show you, again, they will show you where the show is, when the last episode was. You get a longer description of the show itself. So you get more information when you're searching here right up front, and you can begin to build that list of potential shows that might be the right fit for you. When you go into the details of a particular show on iVox, you will get the description. Now, sometimes descriptions are behind a drop down, a collapse arrow, so you might have to click on that. So a little bit of clicking, but you still get it there. And then you'll have a couple of lines for each episode as well, and the duration and the time frame. So this is another good one where you can find more information about the show right up front and make a decision about whether or not it looks good for you. Okay. TuneIn is another good site. TuneIn has one of the better categories lists. The Explore section for their podcast, this categories list changes all the time. Most of the podcast directories do not have a good categories list. By that I mean it's really broad-based. So what you'll see if you click into one of these categories in Explore, it might not be, your area, but when you do look at the podcasts that are listed there, you'll also have one line up from the description. Not a lot of information. So TuneIn is not that great for information right up front, but it actually, when it comes to the episode information, again, you have a lot of arrows to click, but TuneIn includes things like social links. It includes the website link. By the way, not every podcast is going to provide the website or the email or the RSS, access to the RSS. So the directories will actually display it only if they've got it. And TuneIn also has more information, but it's a lot of clicking. So you have the show title, the show date, you have the full description and the duration. So you actually have all the information there that you need about that show, but it's a lot of clicking, and you'll only get access to this other information that you're looking for if it's available. And that's true for all of the different directories. So great, not so great for initial search, but great for show page search. So this is what I'm going to keep repeating, that every directory just offers you different information. You're just going to have to pick the one that you think is one that you like to navigate in. Blueberry is another one that provides a lot of confusing results on initial search because they have all these different categories. But then on their show pages, they actually give you the date, description, the link to the website, the link to the RSS feed. So you always have to decide which approach do you like the most, which one is the best. I'll show you another one, Player FM. Pretty good on the initial search because it shows much longer descriptions for the actual shows, and it also gives you the date, time frame with the last episode upload date. But when you get into the actual episodes, you'll find that there is the information around the last episode when the show is uploaded, but what you don't have is anything else. You don't have the description, you have the duration, but you don't have anything more. So some shows will say right up front that it's an interview, which is great. They'll put the word interview in the title, but many will not. So it's not really helpful for you to be looking at episodes without episode descriptions. Player FM, though, gives you more tags, and that, again, is directory specific. Couple more. Digital Podcast is one of the few that gives you the entire show description. Doesn't give you anything else, but when you go to do your initial search, and if you want to see the entire show description instead of those one-line ones, Digital Podcast is a good place to look for that. But when you go to the actual podcast page, there is no date. So not helpful at all when it comes to finding whether or not the show is still active. So these are the challenges of the directories, as I've been pointing out. Now, a couple of places where the show page is really good, but initial search is not at all. So Podbay doesn't even give you the full title of the show sometimes, but it really gives you a good show page. You'll have the description of the show, you'll have the description of the episodes, the duration, the date, and you actually have a couple of tabs for more information about the show up top. There's an about page, there's reviews. So that's another one where if you're searching for individual shows, you'll find good information. And then the Apple Podcast page. This is actually where I tend to go first when I'm looking for the show details. The Apple Podcast page, I search for it directly through Google, so I'll just type in the name of the podcast and put Apple right after the name of the podcast so that this page comes up. It gives you the show description, the episode date, about 3 lines of the episode description, and the duration. No links to anything else, but it's a great place just to do your initial research to decide if the show looks like it's right for you. And you can see having that information up front lets you know what kind of show it is, maybe whether or not it be the right fit for you, and whether or not you should reach out to that podcaster. And then a quick word about Google itself. You could always just Google your keyword next to the word podcast. And the way that Google's search results come up is to show you a bunch of shows. These are usually, the top shows, the biggest, most popular shows, and then a bunch of articles that are also, if you want to go deeper into searching about your particular subject area, you can look at these blogs, the best list type of blogs. Remember, though, they get pretty repetitive. People tend to be mentioning the same shows over and over and over again. And what you want is, of course, to find the much deeper, longer list of shows that are talking about your subject area. But there is another option on Google as well to look at Google Images for your keyword search, and it might surprise you. You might be able to find even more shows here that pop up on Google Images because they're picking up the artwork. So you'll see shows here that are just the artwork is out there online, on social, and so on, and it shows up on Google Images. Just another way to find some more shows. And let me just finally point out, even if your keyword is tulip or something else that's not one of the most popular terms, no offense to tulip people, you'll still get from Google actually a curated list of the Tulip podcasts. So it is a quick way to see what's out there. Again, though, this does not tell you if these shows are active, doesn't tell you anything else about them, but it is a way to help build your list. All right, so I hope that was helpful just to show you what the different directories have in them. Again, none of them give you everything up front, but some give you more than others, and some give you the information in a way that you might find easier to look at. So that is how to navigate through the different podcast directories. If you want to follow up, if you have any questions, come over to the Facebook page at Guest Podcasting or reach out at podcastgueststar.com, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thanks so much.